Yeah, we're ready when you...
I'm ready whenever. Are we recording?
Yeah, Dalton, you ready to go? Okay, perfect, Nikki.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order tonight's Town of Dayton Board of Selectmen regular meeting. It is Wednesday, December 13th. It is 6 o'clock. This is a hybrid via Zoom and in-person meeting. We are right now at Old Town Hall. The meeting ID is 860-73-874717, passcode 152273. If you want to dial in by phone, that is 1-305-224-1968. Public input may be provided using the following methods. You can contact our office at boardofselectmen@dayton-ma.gov to provide input prior to the meeting. Via Zoom call and by phone, see above, which I just went over, continually playing on Dayton Channel 9 and on YouTube at www.youtube.com/Town of Dayton. This meeting is being recorded. The listings of matters are those reasonably anticipated by the chair, which may be discussed at the meeting. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. This time I ask, who's present?
Good evening, Leonard Hull, present.
Peter Karen, present.
And Nicole Mello. I ask that we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a short time after for a moment of silence.
Since our last meeting, 3 members of our Dayton community have passed. George M. Conti of North Dayton passed away on November 26, 20. He is survived by his wife, Rachel. Dennis J. Fountain passed away peacefully on Saturday, December 2nd. He was a devoted husband of 56 years to his wife, Kathleen Crosby Fountain. And Louis M. Valley, 83 of Dayton, passed away at his home surrounded by his family on November 22nd. We keep these and their families in our thoughts, and our condolences go out to them at this time. Thank you.
Our first scheduled appointment is Paul Reynolds, Treasurer, Collector, on a tax title update.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for having me tonight. I just wanted to come and give an update on the status of our tax title pipeline and the steps that we are taking to collect our delinquent taxes, as well as make sure that we are complying with Mass General Law. So in accordance with the law, on November 16th, I'm going to back up briefly. I just want to be very clear about what a tax taking is and isn't before I get into the specifics of the numbers. There is a lien which is in place from delinquent taxes by default, whether it's recorded or not. By right, there's always a lien on a property for unpaid taxes. However, this lien only remains for 3.5 years. So if you do not secure the lien by actually performing an instrument of taking, publishing it, and securing a lien at the registry, if someone was to sell who had delinquent taxes that's older than 3.5 years, the town could lose its ability to collect that money. So what an instrument of taking is and what a tax taking is, it sounds an awful lot like foreclosure, right? It sounds an awful lot like we're taking your property. It's not. All it is it's vesting the title to the property in the town, and it becomes released to the resident once that delinquency is paid. It's just to ensure that the property, if it is sold or it is transferred, that in order to do that and clear the title, the town must be made whole. So I just want to be very clear that taking doesn't necessarily mean taking, and foreclosure is always Plan Z. But that being said, in order to secure our liens on these properties, we have not secured liens on fiscal 2023. because we want to make sure that we are securing them before they get as old as 3.5 years. So we secured liens recently for fiscal year 2022. And in accordance with Mass General Law, we ran an ad in the Taunton Gazette on November 16th, and we also posted it at Town Hall and at the post office. And those properties which we performed instruments of taking, there were 28 parcels in total, which amounted to $123,938.63. And those were the takings which lead into what are called our certifications. So essentially what that means is that if you've done an instrument of taking and you've secured your lien on a property for tax year, say 2021 or 2022, and that person remains delinquent for fiscal 2023, we're not required to go through a whole new taking, a whole new newspaper ad, a whole new posting. We're able to just annually, it's called a certification of subsequent taxes to tax title. So essentially we just scoop those balances out of the outstanding taxes bucket and we put them into the tax title bucket. That's effectively what that's doing. So we also performed certifications of subsequents, which amounted to $537,307.68. There were 117 parcels. The newspaper ad, I just want to be very clear, we are required by the law to run a newspaper ad. The amount totaled $2,060, and the taxpayer does not ultimately pay for that. Just to be clear, that amount is actually broken up and divided among the amount of parcels in the taking, and it gets added. Based on the amount that we had, it added approximately $67, plus a posting fee and a couple of other things that are in accordance with Mass General Law. That brought us to a total tax title balance of $2,260,860.01. And additionally, like I said, we have not done instruments of taking yet for fiscal 23. They're actually going to the demand stage this week, which is the pre-stage, but it does not automatically begin a tax taking process after that. Demands are essentially a final payment reminder. It's another opportunity for someone to pay before their lien gets recorded, and then they incur things like registry recording fees, advertisement fees, posting fees, things like that. So we give people one more chance, and we only pursue tax title for those that are unresolved. And I am pleased to say that we had a number of people who were made aware of the delinquency, or perhaps reminded of it by the newspaper ad, and we have had multiple people who came in and redeemed. One of them actually managed to pay it off 20 minutes before the liens were recorded. So they managed to escape the $106 registry fee, which was nice. An update on our foreclosure pipeline. I have not initiated foreclosure on anyone, but just to be clear, foreclosure cases take a very long time. So there are some that were opened in 2020 and 2021, which are slowly moving at the glacial pace of land court. Of that, I am pleased to say that of the 20 properties that are total, in foreclosure, 5 of them have been redeemed. So we now only have 15 active cases because 5 of those folks have managed to fully pay off the debt. Unfortunately, of the 15 parcels that remain, there's a substantial value in delinquent taxes there. The total amount there was $655,485.76 as of today. So ultimately, if those residents do not redeem the property and it does fully proceed to foreclosure, the town will end up acquiring those properties, and those outstanding taxes will come off of the books, which would bring us down to somewhere around $1.65 million in outstanding taxes. But again, I just wanted to be very clear about what a taking is, and more importantly, what a taking isn't. All it's doing is securing the lien. Now, once the liens are secured, because the registry fees to do that are actually on tonight's warrant, so once that gets the okay, I'll record those liens in the morning. We have 60 days from the date of the taking. So as long as those are recorded within that time frame, they'll become binding. And at that point, we're going to begin sending monthly letters. So under the law, we cannot initiate foreclosure, even if we wanted to, which I do not. But even if we wanted to, there's a 6-month delay from the taking to when foreclosure can begin. So we plan to send out monthly letters to all of these folks every month, urging them to work out payment arrangements. Under Mass General Law, in order for a payment arrangement to be binding, you must pay 25% of the total delinquency at the time of the payment arrangement, and it's good for 2 years. I understand that sometimes folks are not able to do that. So I am willing to work out flexible arrangements. The truth is that they do, an arrangement that does not involve 25% down is not legally binding. But I'm an elected official, I'm accountable to the people, and I want to be very clear that we have a duty to collect taxes, and it's my responsibility and my requirement under the law. But I am a human being, and I do intend to treat people with respect and dignity. So if the 25% is untenable and undoable for some people, I am willing to entertain any kind of good faith payment arrangement that folks are able to make. And I just wanted to be very clear about that, that, you know, we've got a fiscal responsibility, but we've got human compassion too. If there's any specific questions about the pipeline, I'd be happy to answer them. And other than that, I really just wanted to provide an update.
Does anyone have any questions?
Of the 655, how many of those have a house on it?
That, from when I look through the pipeline, I've got my pipeline right here. I believe they are essentially all land.
Okay.
I believe there may be one which has a house on it, and one of them had a house on it, which was demolished, which was,
Right.
so it looks like these are actually all vacant parcels. And generally speaking, when these go to foreclosure, there's a reason. These are often either wet or landlocked, or they were part of a farm 100 years ago that's been subdivided, and a lot of these are, have frontage issues and things like that. So for many of these, there's a reason that folks have let them go.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you all very much.
Next, we have Bill Rooney, Superintendent, Dayton Rehoboth Regional School District, on an update on the Dayton Elementary School MSBA Statement of Interest. Thank you for coming.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. Let Mr. Mullen get my... There we go. Thank you very much. I'm here with very exciting news. Last time I was here was almost 7 months ago to the day, and I reported that we had submitted our statement of interest for a potential project at Dayton Elementary School. And at today's MSBA board meeting in Boston, the board of directors of the MSBA decided to invite the town of Dayton, the school district, and Dayton Elementary School into Module 1, which is what they refer to as the eligibility period. The eligibility period on the next slide encompasses a period of up to 270 days. We were informed this afternoon that our 270-day clock starts on May 1st of 2024. So while this is very good news, it's almost like having a Christmas present that remains under the tree for a few more months. And the MSBA is very clear that districts and towns are not to start the process before they assign us a project manager and so on and so forth. But there are some steps. Mr. Mullen, if you could go to the next slide. I want to just make sure that folks are aware of how competitive the process was. Obviously, there's only a certain pool of money that the MSBA has access to. There were 63 districts that applied for the eligibility phase, and only 19 of the districts were invited today. So it is a huge accomplishment for your town, for our district, and for our school. The statement of interest process and the senior site visit that we had back in September was truly a team effort. I would like to take the opportunity to thank Senator Pacheco and Representative Haddad, who wrote beautiful, who wrote beautiful letters in support of the project. Obviously, Dayton Board of Selectmen was on board with us presenting the statement of interest, so I want to thank you. Our school committee has been certainly understanding of the needs of Dayton Elementary School from a facility standpoint, from an educational standpoint, and I am very grateful for the support of our school committee. Mr. Mullen is just an absolute joy to work with. I don't always appreciate his sense of humor sometimes
There's a lot of people who don't.
at the inopportune times, but in all seriousness, Mike is just an absolute team player and is a pleasure to work with. And then at the senior site visit that we had back in September, the faculty, staff, and students at Dighton Elementary rolled out the red carpet for the team from the MSBA, and we really were able to show them a tremendous amount of hospitality. So on the next slide, this is just from the MSBA website, and the MSBA website has a wealth of information. But what I've shown here is just a screen grab of what Module 1 looks like. So if we could advance to the next slide. Much like what Mr. Reynolds was talking about just a few minutes ago about, what things are and what things aren't. What this is for us is a very powerful statement about the state's belief in Dighton's commitment to educating our young people. I cannot overstate the importance of the vote that took place today, because again, there were 44 districts that were left out in the cold, hoping to be able to get support from the state. So the fact that our town, our district is respected by the folks at the state level, resulted in a positive vote today is something that we certainly want to celebrate. The best way that I can think of to describe the 270-day process is provisioning, just kind of setting things up, putting things in place. I'll talk a little bit in a second about what this isn't, but as far as some of the boxes that we have to check, once the 270-day clock starts on May the 1st, one of the first orders of business will be that we will need to have a signed agreement with the MSBA. That is referred to as the initial compliance certification. I will provide the selectmen with that link, and I believe Town Administrator Mullen also has access to that information. The next phase is going to be extremely important, and that is going to be for us to form a school building committee. Now, the state is going to provide us with some minimum requirements for what they expect on the school building committee. So there will be town leaders, there'll be district officials. But what I really like about the school building committee process is that there is an opportunity for community experts to be on the school building committee. So we would obviously want representation from law enforcement and from other first responders in terms of the safety lens. We would want any trade experts that are in the community that have the opportunity to consult with us in terms of what is a good approach to construction, what's maybe not a good approach to construction. Obviously, the other departments that are within the town who have always been very supportive of the educational system, their input is going to be extremely important. So I'm attending a training tomorrow, and I'm assuming that one of the aspects of the training tomorrow will be about the formation of the school building committee. And I will be in regular contact with the selectmen, the school committee, and also the town administrator about that process. One pretty labor-intensive piece of this phase is going to be the educational profile questionnaire. I think the term questionnaire is a little bit of a misnomer because when I worked on this with my colleagues in Attleboro, it was a pretty extensive document, but it tells the story of what the current building looks like, but also the needs that we have in terms of providing an even better educational experience for our students. Another aspect of the process is that we are going to have to submit a summary of our existing maintenance practices. That will not be very difficult. There will be a design enrollment stage where we will have to make sure that the state understands what our enrollment trends are, so that we can make sure that we are, if we ever get to that point, that we're building a building that is not going to be too small by the time that it's completed. There are other community authorization forms. And then ultimately, before the end of the 270-day window, there does need to be an execution of the feasibility study agreement. On the other hand, what this is not a need for any funding in this moment. This is simply an invitation for us to start getting things prepared, and that clock, again, will begin on May the 1st of 2024 with all of those phases. But at this point, there is absolutely no funding that is needed. So, there are no shovels going in the ground. This is not at the start of design. This is not the start of construction. There's no estimate for any sort of potential project costs. Right now, this is just an opportunity for us to start planning for the possibility of a project. So before I take questions, just the last thing that I want to mention is that this is not my first go-round with the MSBA. As I mentioned, I was fortunate enough to be a part of a $260 million project in Attleboro for a new high school. Obviously, the enrollment there is close to 2,000 students. Our project will not be anywhere near that big. But what I have noticed is how a project like this can absolutely rally a community. The new Attleboro High School has become the hub of Attleboro. It's used for so many community events. There's so much community pride. And I remain hopeful and optimistic that this is going to provide the same opportunity for a tremendous town like the town of Dayton.
Questions?
Not right now.
I have one question.
Sure.
So what are we looking for from this? Are we looking for a new building, or are we looking to repair and improve on what we have, or are they going to make a proposed plan to us?
If the town approves a feasibility study, which again, that comes at the end of that 270-day clock, which is late 2024, early 2025. The feasibility study is what's going to tease out what the best options are. And then they will work with the school building committee, they'll work with the town to be able to provide some possible options. And at that point, those options will have some at least loose cost approximations. So at this point, it's premature.
Okay.
In that, $2 million is not due until the feasibility study is signed?
The $2
$2 million for the feasibility study?
So feasibility studies these days are going for $2 million to $2.5 million.
Okay.
And with the way inflation is going, I'm hoping that it doesn't go much higher than that by the time we get to needing to approach the community about a feasibility study. But it would not come until after a vote was taken.
Okay. But you're still looking at January 27th, around that time
January
of 2025?
2025. I thought you said 27.
No, you have January 27th, 2025.
Oh, January 27th, 2025. Yeah, that's when the 270-day window closes.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
From your experience in Attleboro, from this point to when they started construction in Attleboro, how many years did it take?
To when we broke ground,
Right,
about 4.
4? Okay, so we're not talking, we're talking 4 to 5 years away.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
If the town decides that we're going to enter into feasibility, the feasibility process obviously does take some time because you're working with designers, architects, construction experts, but there are also visioning sessions. So the visioning sessions were ones that were extremely rewarding for us in Attleboro because you get an opportunity to take the representation that you have on the school building committee and expand it to far more community representatives. We would have student representation, we would have staff representation, and you really get a chance to create a vision for what you would like either a new or refurbished building to look like.
Okay.
I just have one more question.
Sure.
So you got to work on the Attleboro project, which is a community much different than ours. It's larger, they have more revenue. how do you see Dayton? I know that, what is this, the MSBA, they provide some funds for this, but Dayton as a whole, how we will pay for this? I know this is premature, but is there any extra grants, anything else that we should know that would be helpful in going forward?
I'm glad you asked that question, because the last time that I was here, I heard anecdotally that someone mistook my words for thinking that the state pays 100% of the project, and that couldn't be further from the truth. The typical reimbursement rate from the state is anywhere from 50 to 60%, based on different aspects of energy efficiency, and I'm sure a lot of other factors that they take into consideration. You know, what we did in Attleboro was, you know, we had to have a vote in terms of a debt exclusion to be able to make that happen. And it was something that obviously caused a lot of consternation for some folks that are on fixed incomes and things like that. But I think one of the things that, and again, I don't want to put the cart before the horse here, but you did ask the question, so I'm just kind of giving you a sense of the way it was in Attleboro. We had a building in Attleboro that was built in two phases. One was built in early 60s and the other one was built in the early 70s. And they were both of the portions of that building were nearing catastrophic failure. If the catastrophic failure had occurred in terms of heating systems or plumbing systems or anything like that, then the city would have been on the hook for 100% of the repairs. And those repairs, while might seem simple, heating system or plumbing system or what have you, in a building that was built in the 60s and the 70s is not up to code for any sort of handicap accessibility or any sort of wiring codes or anything like that. And so it triggers a dramatic increase in terms of how much the repairs cost. And so we were able, through the feasibility study, we were able to show that if a vote did not pass and we just limped along with the current building, there was going to come a point where the city was probably going to be on the hook for about a $200 million repair / renovation, which the city would have had to pay 100% for. The project cost, the project approximation came in initially at around $255 million, and the state reimbursement was around 50%. So it was an opportunity for us to make a case with the city that for slightly over $125 million, we could get something that would be brand new and that the state would pay half of, or we could wait and wait and wait, and then once the building did fail, then we would probably be on the hook for about $200 million and essentially would be putting lipstick on a pig, because it would be just fixing an old building. So that was a very compelling case in Attleboro, but obviously I understand that every town's different.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything further?
Not for me.
No? All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Rooney.
So next, we have a joint meeting with the Dayton Developmental and Committee, and we have a representative from Southeastern Regional Planning and Academic Developmental District. I keep saying, yeah. Review, discuss, act, potential economic plan.
So yeah, you ready, Elizabeth? Do you want to present from there?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, whatever works best.
And I'll just share this. Actually, I am sharing already, so you should be good.
Okay, all right.
Point of order. Thank you.
Yes.
I
Selectman Hull?
believe
We have
before
to
we
open the
begin,
meeting.
DDIC will need to enter the meeting. It's a joint meeting, correct?
Yes, like if DDIC would be able to call like itself to order. Publicly, I believe you have a quorum of the DDIC there.
So I'd like to call a meeting of the special meeting of DDIC to order. Representatives here are Dan Higgins, Joseph Figueredo, which is a forum. I'm going to turn it back to the chair at this time, Board of Selectmen.
Okay, and we've set that.
Thank you,
Was that-
everyone. So I know I've been in front of you guys a few times in the past few months, so I'm excited to really bring this draft plan, hopefully at the end of tonight will be the final plan. And the purpose of tonight's meeting is to really highlight major changes to previous drafts that you've seen and carefully edited and provided your comments. And I also want to provide some guidance as to how to utilize the plan for next steps and implementation. So I'm going to go ahead. So I'm going to start off with a brief kind of overview of our outline here. We have our introduction, which really covers those existing conditions in the local economy, which I discussed in detail at previous meetings. This looks at social and demographic trends in town, the economy, and how Dayton fares compared to the region and the greater metro region. I also want to highlight some of the key sites that we identified during the development of this plan. And I apologize, we can't see this any larger, but you'll see here that the sites that we decided were key sites in town were broken up into two separate categories: parcel-specific, contiguous large areas in town, and corridors. And you'll see that those kind of differentiate between sites that are vacant, underutilized, have potential for growth. And then we have corridors in town that maybe we want to see some transformation, some change, and how we can go about doing that. This next slide here talks a little bit about the existing developments throughout the state and the region to model potential growth. And this is really important because it gives us a sense for what development could look like, what other communities are doing, and how their building values look like, what their tax revenues look like, and how that could be compared to Dayton. So through this effort, we were able to project potential jobs, building values, and tax revenues for Dayton. And I can go into a little bit detail here. So Spring Street Mill, along with Interplast and Zeneca, were considered the sites with the highest potential redevelopment. And this is for a variety of reasons, as I mentioned before: vacant, underutilized, and lots of funding potential too that could go with it. This site in specific, we looked at projected growth in the themes of mixed use and commercial and industrial. I want to take a second and talk about a couple different things. One, the flavor of economic development in Dayton isn't focused on large-scale manufacturing or industrial growth. It's really focused on unique, niche, agricultural focuses that really speak to the existing character of Dayton. So you'll see here some of the proposals that we have include commercial and industrial growth in the theme of an agricultural incubator or a farm fresh style development, and that could happen at Spring Street Mill. And we provide both low and high development scenarios that again project development in both of those scenarios, again providing numbers for jobs, building value, as well as what that tax revenue would look like in town. I also want to take a second and talk about the mixed use that we propose in this plan. You'll see it peppered throughout for different sites. We talk about it on Main Street and where appropriate. We really wanted to stress that. But I also want to provide a bit of a disclaimer. Mixed use is a multi-tool for a variety of reasons, both housing, but also economic development. And that is the focus of this plan. So while we want to use mixed use to create economic opportunity, this isn't a forum for housing. We're not advocating for that in this plan, and that's not its purpose. However, we do recognize that Dayton has two mixed-use overlay districts that residents have approved on two separate occasions, and we talk about them, how they are currently being used, and what can be done differently. So with that, I also want to say that changes to zoning specifically, and particularly the mixed-use districts, would require, again, approval from residents and would be vetted through that formal process. So with that, I want to talk about some of the corridors, and those are on page 37. I'll see if I can see them here. There we go. So I want to focus on this additional corridor that we had. I mentioned earlier that the Dayton Economic Development Plan focused on corridors and how they could grow and re-envision. We focused on Route 44, Route 138, Main Street, and an additional one that is different from the initial draft, and this is the Riverfront Corridor, hopefully a new term for Dayton. Initially, we proposed development and very concerted, careful development at Shaw's Boatyard. But in our conversations, we realized, wouldn't it be nice to see that along the Taunton Yacht Club or near the Shawomet Yacht Club? And this really started creating this idea of creating a riverfront corridor, harnessing the natural resources that we have and using them to enhance economic opportunity in town. Not exploiting them, but leveraging them in a way that we can create cafes or a waterfront restaurant along those very specific and already active sites in town. So this is a new and I think an innovative strategy and corridor for Dayton. I also want to talk about the townwide recommendations, and those are on page 39. Sorry, I'm flipping through here. There we go. So the townwide recommendations for the Dayton Economic Development Plan focus on 5 themes: zoning amendments, the rural economy, infrastructure, brownfield remediation, as well as character and placemaking. All of these together will, if implemented, would create the changes that we're advocating for in the vision statements for each of the key sites and corridors in town. You'll notice each recommendation has 3 main parts to it, and I'm gonna flip over to page 47. And the 3 main parts include the strategy itself, what it is that it's recommending, what it's trying to achieve, a narrative piece, which is right here, and then finally this box, which is really key for implementation. This highlights responsible parties, priority, as well as case studies that the town can look toward to model implementation or a starting point for, okay, this is how they did their overlay district, or this is how someone else implemented a home-based business, review or something like that. So this is one way to read the plan, and each strategy follows the same pattern so that it's something common and expected as you read through this plan. And then I want to highlight this additional piece under zoning amendments, and this relates back to the riverfront corridor that I mentioned earlier. We talk about creating a riverfront overlay district to protect surrounding uses around the riverfront area because we want to protect those natural resources. We don't want to drastically change it, but we want to enhance complementary commercial uses along there to enable those cafes, those riverfront restaurants that we were talking about, and everyone seems to really love. So that is a new recommendation from the previous draft that I wanted to highlight. And the last section that I want to highlight with you is right here. And this, I think, is really key for implementation when we get to starting to really think about the next steps of this plan. Because whenever I hand off a plan such as this, I always say it's the first step. Because there's a whole lot of work that comes after it. And this implementation table provides a summary of each recommendation, its priority, who's responsible for implementing it, and the sites that it's applicable to. So this will help you say, okay, zoning amendment 1 recommendation applies to, I can't read it from here, but say Main Street, for example. That lets you know that you, in order to create a piece of that vision that we're discussing in the plan for Main Street, we need to implement that recommendation. And so hopefully this is a snapshot and a tool that the town can use to really implement the strategies and track their progress. As I mentioned before, this plan, it should be a living document. You guys can revisit it every year, at the DDIC, talk about it, say, this is what we've achieved this year, maybe we want to add a new step. But at the same time, I think this is a great starting point for the town to begin implementing the vision that we've discussed throughout this plan. So I welcome any questions that you guys may have from both the DDIC and the Select Board. Thank you.
We have, I think, all of us have read this before.
Yes.
Right, so, I mean, my questions were answered in the small print. So I don't have any, and I don't know if my colleagues do, but I'm all set. Other than typically from this point to a shovel in the ground, so to speak, what's the kind of time frame? You've had
So-
other communities do this, and
Yeah, so I mean, I should specify, this isn't a feasibility study.
Right.
It's very different
Yeah,
from the school
right.
discussion we had earlier, right? This is more of visioning a potential future upon these sites. Any of these vision statements or projected developments, they're a potential future. They are not certain. And even if implemented, the strategies in here, it could be that the development turns out to look completely different from what we're proposing. But what we're trying to show here is an interest in a certain type of economic development, which I think we make that narrative and vision pretty clear. We want that small business. We want those vibrant places and placemaking around our community. And doing so is through this plan, while creating some tax revenue. That never hurts. So I don't want to put a timeline to
Right,
something like
okay.
this, but I would say it's pretty long-term.
right, I mean, there's
Yeah.
certainly potential that we have,
100%.
as opposed to a lot of people disregarding or saying there's nothing that you can do in Dayton because we don't have a big 44 or 138 corridor. But
sure.
I think there's some potential. I'm not sure at what level, but I think we can take advantage of some of the things that you have mentioned.
Yeah, for sure.
Selectman Hull?
Actually, I have a couple questions. In your research, did you look at any other waterfront areas beside Shaw's Boatyard area?
So I know in discussions we talked about the Taunton Yacht Club, the Shawomet Yacht Club as areas that are already active. So we focused efforts there because we don't want to disturb neighboring residential areas and impact any of the development there because we know that that probably wouldn't be received positively.
Right. I was just curious in regards to the waterfront area behind where is currently Prince's house.
Okay,
If you
so with that, you know, we don't want to do spot zoning, so we can't put a waterfront overlay district in one little section. It has to be contiguous, right? It has to
Maybe
make
like, and
sense.
that's actually up at, that's actually up at the Interplast style area building as well. So that, like, in that whole area based on this plan does have like an opportunity to be activated as well.
And we do actually make mention of that in waterfront specific parcels like those. If you look at the key sites, especially for Interplast Princess House, you'll see that we make recommendations that enhance connections to the waterfront, like a riverfront park. And within the plan itself, we also highlight waterfront design guidelines to enhance people's idea of what, if you're building on the waterfront, what could that look like and what would Dayton want that to look like?
So there is potential.
There is potential, yes.
The second question has to do with, in both of your earlier proposals, you talked about housing. And in the issue of the Spring Street area, that is currently zoned industry. And we've had some discussions, we had a meeting the other day on it, where a member was very concerned about, one, preserving the tax base, and two, the impact that more housing would have on the schools. With that being said, has there been any look into both the Interplast site, which talks about some housing, and Spring Street site, of it being used either a professional office space, such as lawyers, or any thought of doing what they did in Fall River at Plymouth and Pleasant Street with Primacare, where they turned that industrial complex into a very impressive medical arts facility.
So I will say, I believe Interplast already has a medical overlay district on it, and that's been in place for quite a few years now. So seeing that it hasn't produced the development that we've been desiring, right? We're looking at alternatives. And the reason we chose to incorporate mixed use is because mixed use, like I said, this isn't a housing plan. We'll talk about that next year in Dayton, but we use mixed use as a tool for economic development. And based on the input that we received, people wanted to see small business growth. And Dayton has a great population of home-based businesses that, with the right spaces, we talk about incubator space, with the right developments that would enable a small commercial space, you can only do that through mixed use or purely commercial, zoning. And we can do that, but given the preference for creating neighborhoods, vibrant places, having placemaking take place in town, mixed use is the best vehicle for that.
It's the best route to go. No, thank you.
Does anyone from DDIC have anything to add?
I would just add that I was very impressed by the presentation of the draft, and in particular the recognition that most of our growth has to be through infill. We just don't have, whether it's because of conservation land or because of existing property development, we just don't have the space for massive new business construction. So targeting large sites makes absolute sense. Also, as she said, we have a really healthy, actually, home-based business network in Dayton, and the town clerk was here. She provided some statistics about how much every month it grows. And there are recommendations that are made in that proposal about how to encourage more home-based businesses, how to make them more profitable, how to make it easier for places, but also provide protection for the neighborhoods that they're in. With things like artisan zoning or other zoning that can apply. I was also encouraged to see that there's a lot of suggestions that are made in there that actually the town seems to have already adopted, like an easier permitting processes, talking about how drawing people in general draws business. So, healthy trails and networks and parks and playgrounds and all those things actually do have a rebounding effect, a positive rebounding effect on business. And the Parks and Rec and Dayton Trails have both been really active in the past few years. So all of those things actually are a positive contributing factor too. And I'm just glad to see that you call that out.
So I appreciate it.
Thank you. Just to piggyback off of what Dan said, when it comes to money, you can either tell them where to go or you can want to work on it, right? And economic development's no exception there. So these are really just concepts, right? Not specific designs. So the idea is that we want to demonstrate that we have properties that are in desirable locations, that have some picturesque charm, that have beneficial zoning, that have some favorable overlay districts. And like Dan said, that infill in our existing sites is the priority here. And we want to make the most of what we have, right? We're a community that has to do that a lot. So this is just another iteration of making the most out of what we've got. But one of the things that we do have, as Dan said, is picturesque country charm, right? We've got that in abundance. And we've got a very active Trails Committee who's doing a lot of fantastic work. And I believe that through some of these proposals, we have the ability to marry our natural landscapes and use that as leverage with our industrial development. So we can create destinations where people want to go, not only to enjoy the outdoors, not only to enjoy the water, to enjoy the trails, but also to enjoy the services, the businesses that are able to crop up around these things. And then the last thing I just wanted to touch on again was artisan zoning. I was at a church craft fair a handful of months ago, and I saw someone who lives just a couple of houses down from me, and they were selling these beautiful woodworkings. They made these cool flags and sculptures, all kinds of stuff. And I live just a few houses from this person, and I had no idea that they did this. And there were two major reasons that I had no idea that they did this. Is that one was that we're in a residential zone, so we're highly limited in its ability to promote that they do this. And then two, there's no noise, there's no smell, there's no banging, there's no construction debris. I had absolutely no idea that this person was a woodworker. And the idea of artisan zoning has really opened me up to that there are many people who are, craftsmen, who are, handy people that make things, they tailor things, and they're able to develop these small businesses in a way that really have no traffic diversion, no smell, no pollution. And if we can explore the idea of creating districts or doing something to ease those types of home-based businesses that are not diverting traffic, that are not causing a disturbance, that are non-nuisance-based industries, I thought that was really cool, and I just wanted to echo what Dan and Lizette said and call that out as one of the things that really especially jumped out at me about the plan.
Thank you. Before I entertain a motion from the board, I'd like to read this letter from John, from the Taunton Area Chamber of Commerce. To the Board of Selectmen of the Town of Dayton, I represent the Taunton Area Chamber of Commerce as a voting member of the Dayton Development and Industrial Commission. And I appreciate the opportunity to have participated in the work that has been done to date on Dayton's vision for the future in terms of economic development. Unfortunately, I'm unable to attend the meeting tonight. I have reviewed the proposed economic development plan being discussed this evening, and I have recommended to my colleagues on the Executive Board of Directors that we heartily support the findings, recommendations, and responsibilities as outlined in the economic development plan being put forth today. I'm happy to let you know that on behalf of the entire Executive Board of Directors of the Chamber, we are anxious and excited to see these proposals being adopted by the town selectmen and initiatives put forward to plan, fund, and implement the various zoning amendments promoting and protecting Dayton's natural resources, improving local infrastructure and maintenance through IMAs, and revitalizing underutilized and abandoned properties and enhancing Dayton's small town identity. I look forward to working on these initiatives with my colleagues on the DDIC to start to make these proposals a reality for the town of Dayton. Sincerely, John. At this time, is there a motion from the board?
Actually, I do have a question, if we could, before we bid.
Go ahead, Selectman Hull.
Before we vote on this plan, and it is an excellent one, Lizette, thank you, and your colleagues who helped with that. Who will be coordinating this? Once this plan is on paper and approved, how do we make sure it happens?
Yes. So we do have a proposed implementation plan as well, like included in here that has the groups that, it does have the groups, the individuals and committees who would be charged and responsible for carrying them through. So right here, just as an example, enhancing our agricultural economy, through the development of agricultural and incubator space. The entities who would be responsible would be the town administrator, the selectmen, the planning board, the DDIC, private owners and local partners. We do have a proposed priority ranking here. And as I mentioned, we do have groups who would be charged with carrying out the recommendations.
Now, Serpent, does your role end once this report is accepted, or will you continue to assist us as a consultant?
Typically, this is where my role ends, but depending on what type of assistance you guys are looking for, each year the town does get municipal assistance hours through the town. We could review the document with you, we could do a check-in, that kind of thing, but it's really at the discretion of the town and what you guys are looking for.
Okay. No, thank you. Thank you very much.
Is there a motion?
At this time, I would like to make a motion that the town of Dayton accept the proposed economic development plan as presented this evening.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote?
Aye?
Peter Karen's and I.
And Nicole Mello is an aye. And then I apologize, I didn't know if you guys were supposed to vote on something first. I skipped over you. Okay, I apologize for that. I do ask that you guys dissolve or end your open meeting.
Yeah, we don't want them to dissolve.
No,
Please don't.
Better do it now.
I'd like to entertain a motion for adjournment of the DESC meeting.
Proposing motion to adjourn.
Second. I'll second. All in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned at 6:55.
Thank you, and thank you for
Thank you,
coming.
everyone. I really
Um, Next, we have, I don't see acting chief. I do see all the police officers, so this is a great time to, do a, oh, there you are, to do a crime or something. Everyone's here. Hi, I'm sorry, I didn't know you were behind there. I have limited,
I know.
I have limited
Obstructive
view.
yeah.
So we're here to review, discuss, act on full-time patrol woman recommendation. Jillian,
Yes.
do you have some words you'd like to say on her behalf?
Yeah, so, going back to, September 9th, we had the test for the, potential hire. And, speaking to, Mr. Mullen, we started with the interview process, background checks and then interview process. Mainly because the, overtime and stuff has just been on the increase. Been operating at minimal manning for months now. Short a few guys. So I've been in talks, like I said, Mr. Mullen a couple times, saying, we gotta try to figure something out to come to some resolution. So he okayed the fact of starting with the background checks, and once those were completed, we then contact the candidates for a interview. So I put together an interview panel, which consisted of a few of the patrolmen and the sergeants. And when we conducted that, we found a candidate that was full-time academy trained, which is a huge thing for us because it's not only gonna save time, but also save the town money for paying for someone to go to the academy. Of course, entrance fees, and the fees to pay that person weekly to go to the academy, which we wouldn't get that person on the street till probably August, September. And then after that would be FTO training, so we're looking at like December. So with all that time added up, we're looking at issues down the road with, well, it's already started with patrolmen trying to take vacation time, personal time, and time's getting denied because we just don't have the bodies. We just don't have it. So to avoid any further complications, I was really like kind of talking to Mike about, say, can we go ahead, with trying to appoint somebody. So that's where we are tonight.
Does anyone have any questions?
no.
No, I do have a procedural motion to present to the board. Before we're able to bring on another officer, it's going to be necessary to vote to supersede the hiring freeze that we put in place. And I believe public safety and the need to maintain public safety coverage on our highways is a priority. And certainly, in my judgment, a good reason to ask at this time if the board would make an exception to the hiring freeze.
Is that
So
a
that we
motion
could
or a
fulfill-
question?
I can make that in a form of a motion.
That would be good.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion that the Board of Selectmen
Waive.
not include the hiring freeze in a decision to hire a new police officer, female officer.
Can I get a second?
I don't know, I'm not so sure that's the way we want to word it.
What about if we waive the hiring freeze currently in place for this particular hire?
Right. Just this one time.
Yes.
Waive the hiring freeze for the hiring of a full-time patrolwoman. Actually, I could do it all in one if that's okay.
That's fine.
Patrolwoman in Jillian Mari Amorum.
A second.
Any discussion? And a vote?
Aye?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. So what, we're good.
Now, does she get sworn in tonight? or-
So she'd, she would go to town hall tomorrow. Yes. Sworn in with the town clerk tomorrow. But just to touch on a couple things with, Jillian, I don't know if you know the background, Jillian, was a graduate of New Bedford High School, currently resides in New Bedford, is an active member with the 772 Military Police Unit, Army Reserve National Guard in Taunton. And she proudly holds the rank of sergeant, right?
Correct.
And like I said, she is a full-time MPTC trained officer.
That's great.
Well, we thank you for picking Dayton.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you guys for sticking around. I'm sorry it took so long. Thank you. All right. So we have our next agenda item. Annabelle Powell, Council on Aging, review, discuss, act, appointment of Annabelle as temporary Dayton Housing Authority Board member. I'll wait till everyone clears out. So as we remember, this was something that we had to table to Annabelle could be present with us, so we're revisiting this. And so this was, this was regards to an open on the Dayton Housing Authority Board of Commissioners. There was no residents that had come forward, so Annabelle is looking to take the position. I believe you have been on this before?
Yes, I have. I filled in before also.
Is there any questions from the board?
No.
No, none in a row.
Is there a motion from the board?
I would like to make a motion to appoint Annabella Powell as a temporary Dayton Housing Authority Board member.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
No.
And can I get a vote?
Aye.
Peter Karen's and I.
And Nicole Mello is an aye as well. Congratulations. And then you have some announcements on the aging grants.
Yes, I did see that there was a letter there, but I don't have that letter. Did somebody bring that letter? I'll just speak of what I don't.
I think it was originally gonna be in the correspondence.
That's okay, though. So we
But
did
you can
receive,
give an overview of
we
what it
received a letter from Tara Hames, who works for the Massachusetts Council on Aging. She's a nutritionist there. And she was part of the team from MCOA who created the Mass Walking Challenge. And we just received notice that Dayton won the grand prize.
Wow, cool.
We were the COA out of all the Massachusetts Councils on Aging that won $1,000 towards our, that we can use towards our fitness programs. That was really wonderful news. I thought we were like one of five, but we were the only ones. And quite a few of our residents won gift cards, Dunkin' Donuts, different places. So that was very exciting. And what I'd like to do is I'd really like to thank all the Dayton residents who participated. We couldn't have done it without them. Next, the COA also successfully acquired a $50,000 grant through the Massachusetts Executive Office of Elder Affairs so that we can implement a hybrid or in-person programming. The grant will be used to purchase hybrid program equipment, finance new programs, help purchase tablets for loaning program for the residents in Dayton, those that might not have it. So that was wonderful, wonderful news, and, okay, that's on that. There was another grant, which is more important to me, which was the grant for $24,956 from the Massachusetts, also from the Massachusetts Council on Aging. It's a demonstration grant for senior center modernization, and we were granted it to be used to update and renovate the entrances to the COA and primetime buildings, and the funds will be used to build a patio and walkway. This grant was made possible by the work of the COA team, Mr. Mullen, Mr. Ferry, Mr. Aguirre, the Dayton Rehoboth High School students and their leaders, the support of Senator Pacheco and Representative Haddad, and Terry Ruby from the Community Council of Bristol County. The last three, they all wrote letters of approval for this grant, and we are very excited to have received and all this money.
Great.
You guys are doing a great job, and
Thank
both
you.
those grants, as well as the walking challenge.
The walking
those
challenge.
wins were big wins. So, thank you for all your work.
Absolutely, thank you.
Ms. Mello, last evening at the Dayton Rehoboth Regional School Committee, they recognized Jeff Nadozi, the CTE teacher, and the Dayton Rehoboth Engineering and Drafting students for their work on this project. It was a big plus for the community.
Absolutely.
You know, and to get Dayton Rehoboth Regional High School students involved in projects around town is a huge help to us, but also highlights the wonderful things they do over at DR and the
Absolutely.
CTE program in particular.
I was very impressed with their drawings that they did.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, you guys, good evening.
All right. I know Jim's hiding behind the tree. If you could come up and give us an update on 620 Spring Street.
I was walking that side of the room. Hello, everyone. Selectmen, Dayton. I'm here to speak to you tonight about a property that was already mentioned earlier, and that's 620 Spring Street. The reason I'm here to talk to you about it is, unfortunately, we have some concerns with the integrity of the building. So although zoning would be great in order to try to redevelop the area, we have a bigger problem in front of us, which is the current condition of the building. This building is one of the two largest buildings in Dayton, and it's an old mill building, something I'm familiar with because I honed my skills in one of the large cities adjacent to us. So what I'm finding at this building isn't out of the ordinary. However, it's in our village area, which is frequented by pedestrian traffic, and therefore it's a grave concern. So what I want to bring to your attention tonight, I think everyone's read my letters, but I wanted to talk to the people at home and let them know what Dayton is doing to try to protect their safety and also hold the current owner of the property accountable for repairing their building. That said, back in August of this year, we received a call from a walker who said that there was a piece of the building that appeared to be fallen on the sidewalk. So once I was notified, I visited the site, confirmed it was late at night. Town officials convened the following morning in Mr. Mullen's office. I want to thank all of them for they dropped everything to have this meeting. We visited the site and found out that we indeed had an issue with the building. It's not falling down, however, pieces of the building are falling off. And that obviously is a concern to both pedestrian and vehicular traffic. The very next, that afternoon, we closed the sidewalk off. The sidewalk was closed off using Town of Dayton infrastructure, fencing, barricades, et cetera, et cetera. Those are all items that we own. We bought those years ago using demolition funds. In the event that we had an emergency, we could cordon off an area fairly quickly. Those barricades remain in place. What's unfortunate about the circumstance is that despite one phone call conversation with the owner that happened on the day we closed the sidewalk, I have had no further contact with the owner. Despite repeated requests, email, certified mailings, there's been zero response. So unfortunately, I'm gonna have to move to the next level. It appears that the property owner is either not willing or not taking us seriously enough to correct the situation. So that means I'll move forward with notifying them that we will be conducting an inspection of the building, which includes the demolition survey team. However, I want everyone to know, my intent is not to demolish this building, unless, of course, the survey team deems it necessary. It's a road that I don't want to go down. I'm hoping that this property owner will do the right thing and repair their building. That survey will take place sometime in mid-January, mid to late January. I will need to hire an engineer in order to do that survey. The current survey team that we have comprises of specific town officials and members of the professional field, but all of the surveys to date have been on buildings that are residential or small in nature. Because this building is over 35,000 cubic feet, I need a structural engineer or an architectural engineer to accompany us on the survey. That survey cost will be done, paid for through my demolition account, which is in my operating budget. Any costs that are incurred as part of this process will be then leaned against the property, as was mentioned earlier by the treasurer collector. So we will recoup those funds. I'm hoping sometime between now and then, the owner will respond to me, let me know what their intent is to fix the building. Otherwise, I have a responsibility to the community, the people, and to the taxpayers to make sure that they're held accountable if they don't want to take care of their building.
You've been pushed to the brink now. What makes you think he's going to respond to anything else?
I'm not sure that he will.
Okay.
Unfortunately, fortunately, the building code empowers me to intervene if I need
Right.
to. However, it's a large building, and I really don't want to fix this building.
Yeah. And what kind of costs for the engineer?
Probably a few $1,000s.
Yeah, and you have that in your budget,
I do,
you said?
yes, I
Okay.
do.
Selectman Hull?
We hired 4 architect/engineering firms to handle issues. Would any of them qualify?
Yes, and I would certainly reach out to them to make sure they have someone on staff that can meet the requirements of the code. I'm certain some of them will, and I would use that avenue. We went through a lot of effort to have them on staff, so, but there'll still be a cost, and that cost will have to be covered through my demolition account.
Now, there has been some discussions in regards to 620 Spring Street and the fees, and these discussions have been held in public meetings that are owed to the sewer department, as well as back taxes. Have we coordinated a plan to reach out to this owner as to consequences of not responding to us?
That would be a question for Administrator Mullen.
Yes, like in the process that, like in the process that the treasurer talked about earlier, I do actually know for a fact that 620 Spring Street is included in that, and included in that process are the funds. Are the funds at the property owner of 620 Spring Street owes in both taxes and sewer.
Oh, okay, so it does include sewer as well?
Absolutely, yes.
No, thank you. Thank you.
I have 2 other points, if you don't mind. So the first point I'd like to make is that if we do a survey of the building, it's the entire building. It's not just the facade that is falling apart. It will be the entire building. So it's a comprehensive inspection. It's an inspection that I don't control, the building code controls. I just follow what I'm told to do through the code. If the survey team comes back and says that there are deficiencies in the building, then I will make a determination as to what parts of the building I vacate, if any, or the entire building. I don't know, and I'm not going to speculate, but I want you to know that the whole building will be looked at. The other part of this, and I want to make sure everyone knows, I said that this started in August. It's now December, and I'm not going to do the survey till January. I don't want anyone at home to think that I am delaying this process. If I felt that the building was in dire need of collapse, I certainly would act. I think all of you know that. So I don't feel that way. That said, I'm also being careful about, this is a very, very large building, and I am going to follow what I'm required to do and responsible to do. But if it comes to a point where this property owner, now that I know that there are back taxes and other things owed, decides that maybe this building is better off in our hands than theirs, this is an awfully large building to be responsible for. And that's not something that I want to go back to the taxpayers and say, we now have to take care of this building. So I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that the property owner is held accountable, but I also need to tell you that it's possible that that happens.
The facade that fell off, any more bricks coming off?
Yes, it still continues to fall off.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why the sidewalk has remained closed.
Right.
Is there at any point, you're just going, knowing things are falling off because people tell you? My concern is that there are employees that work in there, and at this time, there's nothing falling where they walk.
No.
But is anyone monitoring the building?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
all
both
right.
the fire chief and I have been in the building. We know the building quite well. The interior of the building doesn't have anything like the exterior right now where people would be in danger. However, we're not structural engineers. That's why the survey team is comprised of very specific individuals. And the structural engineer may see something that I can't see or the chief can't see. So yeah, it's a comprehensive inspection.
All right.
But it's a good question.
Thank you. Do you have anything further?
No.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Yep.
Thank you for the Commissioner idea.
So next we have announcements. The town parking ban, no person shall park a motor vehicle between the hours of 12 midnight to 6 a.m. on any street from November 1st of the year to April 1st of the following year. Police will take notice. The Town of Dayton Food Bank will be held next on December 16th, located at the Town Hall, 979 Somerset Avenue. This is held in the lower level. Town Administrator report.
Yes, I just have a quick update for everyone, to share with everyone that we have not forgot about the town hall walkway and ramp project. I think the beginning of last week we got a quote. We got a quote in for the walkway construction. And we haven't because of supply chain issues. We're awaiting a quote on the railings themselves. So we do hope to have them ASAP. We've been following up, we do hope to have that soon, but I wanted to I wanted to share with everyone that it is a priority. It's on our radar. I can hope. And hopefully in the next week or so we do. Have a quote on the railing so we can actually move forward with the project. So Jim, I'm not sure. I've been working with Jim on this as well. So.
I just wanted to say that right now, based on what we have, we're on budget.
Yes.
Very,
Yep.
very good. So.
Okay, thank you.
So when do you see it, the spring?
Either through the winter if we have good weather, or the spring, but we
Yep.
haven't forgot about it.
Right, okay.
We've been talking. We've been talking about this since I think July. So and a lot of times if people don't hear about something, they think we forgot about it. Oh yeah, like and probably I mean, like every week we've been following up on it because we know we have to move it forward.
Okay.
So I just wanted to give that update, and that's all I have.
Selectman Hull?
Mr. Aguirre, isn't it more expensive or risky to pour concrete in the winter?
It can be, yes, and I would certainly discourage that if the weather was cooperative, meaning no snow,
Yes.
but the temperatures were not conducive, then
yes.
I would not allow it to happen,
Okay.
yes.
No,
As much as we want to get it done, we'd have to wait.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, though.
Anything further?
That's all I have.
Selectman report, Peter?
I'm gonna ask Mike Mullen to do the solid waste for me. He was there and I was not.
You missed the pizza party.
I did.
Things happen.
Yeah,
Mike?
next time.
Yes. So yeah, like we did have a pizza party like at solid waste last night, and what we talked about, we had about an hour and a half. We had about an hour and a half to 2 hour meeting where where we talked about how we funded our program compared to other towns, and how it and how we fund our program compared to other towns is becoming challenging. So what we talked about is by probably by the first part of February. We're gonna have a community survey go out to to do some outreach to shape. How we try to address the funding issues we have with solid waste. And and that's. So everything we talked about, we're meeting next on January. On January 22nd. So that's all I have on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No problem.
So I am next. Quickly, I just want to talk about the COD. We weren't able to meet this month as we'll see later in the agenda, we did have somebody resign, and it made the quorum too small to meet. We do have, and we'll see on the agenda, somebody else that's looking to become a member, as well as I received an email about an additional member that I will invite to our next meeting to see if this is something they're looking to pursue, and then maybe they'll come before us. Again, just real quick on the Board of Health, I haven't been able to attend their meetings due to my work schedule, but I do want to address the trash bags again, because here we are again. They worked very hard to find a new vendor. Unfortunately, some of the bags are still having a different issue. This is a new vendor. We've taken on a new vendor. It just happened to be that there's an issue. Once again, you can bring them back to the Board of Health and you can get a new bag. And there are still plenty of bags at other venues. I know still people have their set places they want to get their bags, but if your bag's not there, please go to the website and there is an updated list. The office manager, Elizabeth, works really hard on that site, so I really encourage people to go to it and check it out. It has lots of valuable information. Other than that, I don't have anything. Selectman Hall?
Thank you. I have three. The Fire Department Feasibility Study Committee has requested architect/engineering firm HKT to begin reviewing 3 potential plans for an upgrade of the fire department facilities. They will look at the potential of remodeling the south station or adding an addition to the north station, or the possibility of a new fire station. HKT will report back to us with the pros and cons of each proposal, their recommendations, and a price for them to implement those recommendations. And just so the public understands, that if HKT's proposal is more than we can afford, we do have 2 other architects, engineering firms that we can turn to. Last evening, the Dayton Water District, there's a lot going on. Today, Norton Construction, the Dayton Water District, and our Conservation Commission, Lisa and Dave Phillips, Lisa Caledonia and Dave Phillips, met to go over the punch list for the Water District's piece in the construction of Main Street. I want to inform the public that Main Street is not done. Far from it. Just the Water District's piece is almost done, unless there are some corrective actions that need to be taken. Sometime March or April, Mr. Ferry will then begin the second phase of a 3-phase project. In addition, there was discussion about disinfectant byproducts that the residents in the South District received notification of. They have been flushing. They have increased chemicals in the filtration system. No one is in danger. However, the DBP product level is still not acceptable by the state. And in the spring, the Elm Street tank will be taken offline for reconditioning, especially inside the tank. The Water District wanted to thank people for responding to the meter repair request. If any of you still have not responded to the Water District's request so they can come into your home to replace or repair the meter, please contact the Water District as soon as possible. Also, last evening was the school committee. Spotlight of the evening was the CTE program, and John Harrell is the CTE director. As I mentioned earlier, Jess Nardozi and his students were recognized for their work with the Council on Aging, and they also spotlighted the programs that they have in CTE, early childhood, marketing, media studies, carpentry, auto repair, engineering, design and drafting, and advanced manufacturing. There was a discussion in regards to Quizlet and Khan Academy. At the previous meeting, some parents were disturbed that the Dayton-Rehoboth Regional School District was not using Quizlet and Khan Academy inside the school. Those are tutorials, student tutorials, that the school district could not get the Quizlet company or Khan Academy to sign an agreement that they would not sell student data. So as a result, the Dayton-Rehoboth Regional School Committee voted not to allow their use in schools. Very important decision with the school committees involving Dayton-Rehoboth and the Bristol County Agricultural School. The DR and BA already combined for their wrestling program. And last evening, it was approved that the Bristol Aggie school students may participate with the Dayton-Rehoboth Regional High School students in their football program. Bristol Aggie has about 10 to 15 students who have shown an interest in playing football. And football is a very expensive sport. Bristol Aggie does not have a stadium, so it's an ideal fit. And Bristol Aggie will be funding the cost for that program, so it will not be an additional financial burden to the Dayton-Rehoboth Regional taxpayers. And lastly, and most important, we're seeing some great things out of the Dayton-Rehoboth Regional District. And last evening was student awards. And I'm going to mention 4 students who received high honors from the Massachusetts Superintendent's Association, the New England School Committee Association, and South Coast Collaborative for their outstanding academic achievement. Jonah Hebda, Kylie Mira, who's also the student representative on the DR School Committee, Alexis Leonard, and Caroline Corby were all honored for their academic excellence. They're also all seniors at Dayton-Rehoboth. Thank you.
All right, we're gonna move on to old business. Review, discuss, act, the approval of the FY '23 to FY '25.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, so actually, on May 11th, 2022, the board entered into an MOA agreement, between the parties being, the town of Dayton and the, in the Highway Department Employee Union. What we've recently done is, we've taken, we've taken all the terms of the MOA. And we've integrated into a CBA. So all the updated provisions in the MOA are now in an integrated CBA, and so what I'm recommending to the board is approval, of an integrated CBA with all the MOA provisions incorporated.
any discussion?
Any questions?
Can I entertain a motion?
Mr. Chairman, Madam Chairman, I would like to make a motion to approve the fiscal year 2023 to fiscal year 2025 ASME Highway Employee Collective Bargaining Agreement.
Second.
And there was no discussion. Can I get a vote?
Aye.
Peter Karen's and I.
And I, Nicole Mello.
Great, thank you.
So new business, we're gonna review, discuss, act the application for membership to the Commission on Disability, Kevin Smith Jr.
I think we're gonna table this, right?
It was too soon for that, Mike. If you want to, I mean, it's completely up to you. Well, I have this list, let me get it out.
I'm actually upset that you guys missed my original application for membership. It was meant to be more comical, but my phone rejected the submission and I had to do it from the computer and I
Well,
said
your phone was trying to tell you
that
something.
was a sign, I better
Though I
be
was
serious.
interested, I didn't know you had you've taken some kind of grant class or something along that
Yeah, I
lines.
have a grant writing certificate from
I
Penn
did
State.
not know that.
I'm actually too, just kind of, because it kind of coincides with the work of COD, as right now I'm exploring too. I think 99.9% sure I'm going to enter into the Deaf Studies Certificate Program at BCC online, just to kind of further my own knowledge
Okay.
of disabilities, so.
That's interesting. Does anyone from the board have any questions for Mr. Smith?
No. Mr. Smith served the COD with distinction, and he's returning. That's a good thing for the town of Dayton.
a couple people twisted my arm, but.
Prodigal son returns. Can I get a motion?
I will make a motion to approve the application for membership to the Commission on Disability of Kevin Smith Jr.
Second.
Any discussion? And can I get a vote?
Aye?
Peter Karen's and I.
And I'm as I as well. Welcome back.
I gotta go to the clerk still, right?
Yes.
Yeah, all right, I'll go see her.
Please.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sitting through all this to get here. So let's review, discuss, act on the annual liquor license renewals. Do I have to read all these?
No, but could I
Good.
just fill you in on the next two items?
Yes.
I just wanted to let you guys know that although all the businesses are listed, Leanne and I are only recommending in each of our letters, the ones that have submitted all their paperwork
Right.
and have been signed off by the Board of Assessors and the tax collector.
What's here is what we're approving.
The ones on the agenda have all the businesses, but in our letters, we're only recommending for the ones that have submitted for all their paperwork and been signed off on.
When do they have to submit all this?
We'll be coming back to the next meeting, so we have until the end of the year, so we'll be
Okay.
coming back to the next meeting with the remaining.
Okay.
So only these.
Yes.
Yes.
So, was this in the original posting?
So Dave's Fast Mart.
Yes, and that was done in anticipation of hearing from them and having all the updated, and having updated approvals and everything, but everything there, is only what's approvable right now.
I understand that, but for the case of OML,
everything in that, is also in our agenda as well.
okay, so
Yes.
we can say as presented this evening.
Yes, as presented in the letter right there.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, all I have is the dealer's license. The liquor license as
Is that in here?
included here.
Sorry. Oh, here I have it.
You got it?
Yep.
I'm sorry,
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
thank you. So we don't, and again, this is in the okay.
Yes, it's in the
Yes, thank
agenda
you.
as well, yep.
All right, do we have a motion for the annual liquor license renewals?
I would like to make a motion to approve the annual liquor license renewals as presented this evening.
Second.
And any discussion? Vote?
Aye?
Peter Karen's and I.
And Nicole Mello is an aye. So review, discuss, act the annual dealer's license renewals.
I would like to make a motion to approve the annual dealer license renewals of the companies presented here this evening.
Second.
Any discussion? And can I get a vote?
Aye?
Peter Karen's and I.
And Nicole Mello is an aye. Next, we're gonna review, discuss, act on the 250 anniversary member appointment. Are you speaking on that, Mike?
We have to have, we have to have the board designate one of its members to be on the
Right.
250 anniversary of America committee. So that would be up to the board who it wants between the three of them.
Is anyone interested, and does anyone wanna make a motion?
I figured I would do it because I'm the liaison to the Dayton Historical Society now, so it makes most sense that, well, it doesn't make the most sense, but I would,
It corresponds well with what you're already doing.
Right.
Can I get a motion?
Yes. I would like to make a motion to appoint Peter Karen to the 250th anniversary committee.
well,
I'll second it.
yeah.
And any discussion and a vote?
Aye?
And Nicole Mello is an aye.
Now, are they looking for us to appoint other members too, or get these
Oh.
other members that they?
I'm sorry, how did we list it on the agenda?
It's
We have to, the board has to, we have to ask any of our department heads if they're
Right.
interested as well.
So-
And so we have to do that. Plus the board has a responsibility to appoint 3 at-large members as well.
Right, okay. So we
We
should
need to seek those.
make a motion to have Karen and Leanne send out letters to other departments.
Yes.
Oh, yes, okay. I'd
We
like
will
to
do
make a
that.
motion to have the town administrator's office reach out to our department heads for a recommendation, and also to post on social media the request for members for this 250th committee.
Second,
Any discussion? Can I get a vote?
Aye?
Peter Karen's and I.
Nicole Mello is an aye. We're gonna review, discuss, act the award of the salt bids.
Yes. So, we're also joined by the highway superintendent as well this evening, but this is the annual process. This is the annual process where we typically join the town of Medfield bid, for rock salt, solar salt, and treated salt. So what I would recommend, what I would recommend is that the board vote to join the bid again, for 2023, 2024 as proposed.
Any discussion from the board? Or questions?
I would like to make a motion to approve the joint purchase of salt with the 2023, 2024 bid as presented this evening.
With the hopes that we don't ever have to use it.
Do I have a second?
Second,
Any discussion? Can I get a vote?
Aye?
Peter Karen's and I.
Nicole Mello is an aye. Approval of the warrants.
Yes. I would like to make a motion that the town of Dayton pay the December 7th, 2023 warrant item 24A-24, $119,906.75. Item 24B-24, $85,636.04. Item 24C-24, $12,675.
You second that.
Any discussion? Vote.
Aye.
Peter Karen's and I.
Nicole Mello
I'd
is
like
an
to
aye.
make a motion to the town of Dayton pay the warrant of December 14th, 2023. Item 25A-24, $117,943.31. Item 25B-24, $153,110.89.
Second,
Any discussion? Vote.
Aye?
Peter Karen's and I.
And Nicole Mello is an aye. We have no acknowledgements, correspondence. We have a letter from Donald Hershey, resignation from the Commission on Disability. He had sent me a written letter, addressed to me as the chair on the Commission on Disability, that he would like to resign. So I'm looking for a motion to accept that resignation.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the letter of resignation from Donald Hershey from the Commission on Disability.
Second,
Any discussion? And a vote?
Aye?
second, oh, aye.
Getting excited there.
Yeah.
All right, I'm an aye as well. Then I have a letter from the Board of Health, recommendation to appoint Heather as the health agent representative to the Solid Waste Committee. Dear Board of Selectmen, the Board of Health met on November 28th, 2023, and voted to recommend Heather, the health agent, as the Board of Health representative to Solid Waste. Can I get a motion?
We don't actually have to have like a vote on that
Oh, okay.
because the health agent is automatically appointed, as is the as is the Board of Health representative as well.
Okay.
So it's just informative.
Yes, just as a FYI, yep.
So on that matter, I also have a letter from the Board of Health with a recommendation to appoint Joanne Wilson as the Board of Health representative to the solid waste. Dear Board of Selectmen, the Board of Health met on November 28th and voted to recommend Joanne Wilson as the Board of Health representative to the solid waste committee. It'd be great to have them both. Next, we have a letter from Laura Medeiros, the Council on Aging Office Manager, various donations made to the Council on Aging.
Do we have to approve these individually?
You do not, no.
I would like to make a motion to approve the donations made to the Dayton Council on Aging for the total of $393 from the donors presented this evening.
Second.
Any discussion? And can I get a vote?
Aye?
Peter Karen's and I.
And Nicole Mello is an aye. Thank you. Do we have any public input?
No?
Tom, good?
All right, hearing none, I'm gonna move on to approval of the minutes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the Board of Selectmen regular meeting minutes of November 15th, 2023.
Second.
Any discussion? And can I get a vote?
Aye?
Peter Karen is an aye, but,
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
but isn't
Oh,
the,
I'm sorry, I thought he said aye.
Something not right?
the Wednesday, it says the 29th on the,
Oh.
regular meeting minutes?
Yeah, then the agenda, then there would be a typo on the agenda, so I would recommend that we
Right.
hold off on approval at this point.
So we should table this?
Yes.
Okay, can I get a
Thank you.
motion to
Sorry.
table?
Motion to table the approval of the regular meeting minutes of, it should be the November 29th? November 29th.
Can I get a second?
Second.
And no discussion, vote?
Aye.
Peter Karen's and I.
And Nicole Mello is an aye.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, that was so fast. We're, vote aye.
Yes.
We're adjourned.
Thank you.
Where's the meeting?